Hello aspirants, a very good day to all of you. This is Vilasini from Veranda IAS and friends. இன்னைக்கு நம்ம என்ன பார்க்க போறோம்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா the daily current affairs analysis for the dates August 14th and August 15th 2025. So yes, first of all, I wish you all a very happy Independence Day. So today, let's take a moment to think of our great freedom fighters, the people who have taken tremendous efforts to keep our country and nation in glory, right? So this year being the 79th Independence Day, let us take a moment to reflect back some of our constitutional values, the contribution of several freedom fighters, and let us be active citizens contributing to the vibrant democracy of India. So yes, with this, today being a bright, positive Friday, every day ஒரு மோட்டிவேஷனோட நம்ம ஆரம்பிக்கிறோம். ஸோ இன்னைக்கு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா when I was thinking what I should talk to all of you, this image struck my mind, right? So take a moment, try to understand what this image tells you. Any guesses? So yes, இந்த image பார்த்த உடனே உங்களுக்கு என்ன தோணுது? இதை நீங்கள் கமெண்ட் செக்ஷனில் டைப் பண்ணலாம். ஓகே, ஸோ இந்த இமேஜ் பாருங்க. This talks about two people, சரியா? Person A and person B. ஸோ இந்த இடத்துல வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா பர்சன் ஏ ஆரம்பிக்கும் போது ரொம்ப எஃபர்ட்டோட ஸ்டார்டிங். ஸோ யூஸ்வலி இதே வந்து நம்ம ப்ரிப்பரேஷனோட கம்பேர் பண்ணால் நம்ம when we start preparation, right, there is a level of josh. ஓகே, எல்லாருமே ரொம்ப எந்தூசியாசமோட ரொம்ப எக்ஸைட்மெண்ட்டோட you'll all work very hard, slog for long hours. It is very normal. So for the first few months you will notice that you're putting more effort, நிறைய டைம்க்கு படிக்கிறீங்க, ஒரு பேலன்ஸ் இருக்கு, you're really motivated. So இதே மாதிரி ஒரு ஃபேஸ் இருக்கும் in your preparation where you will constantly see there is an up. Next என்ன ஆகும்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா as you start digging and digging and digging, ஒரு டைம்ல you will feel okay, there is a fatigue, right? Maybe we are not cut out for this. நிறைய self doubt, நிறைய questions வரலாம். அப்போ you will start witnessing what is called as a downward phase. So let me tell you, no aspirant's trajectory has straight away been 0 to 100. Every aspirant's UPSC journey has been nothing but a sinusoidal wave having ups and downs. So இந்த இடத்துல இந்த இமேஜ் பார்க்கும்போது person is working very hard. Okay, ஸ்டார்டிங்கில் ஆரம்பிக்கும் போது ரொம்ப ஹார்ட் ஒர்க் போட்டு he is progressing forward and forward and forward. At the end of the day, ஏதோ ஒரு கட்டத்தில் நீங்கள் நிறைய எஃபர்ட் போட்டிங்கன்னா definitely you will see light at the end of the tunnel, right? So similarly, this particular person is also working very hard to ensure that he gets the benefits of what he is putting effort for. But போக போக பார்த்தீங்கன்னா the person gets demotivated. The person feels that no, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I should look out for another job. Maybe I'm not capable. நிறைய self-doubt, நிறைய question marks. Mind is wavering. So even after, say in the case of the person B, he's come so far, right? இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் dig பண்ணா there is a huge potential for getting all these diamonds. So after going so far, the person chose to give up. So this is something that many of us make a mistake in our preparation. So let me tell you, motivation பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் you are your best motivator. Primarily rely on yourself, right? And remember, even when it is competition, the competition is always between your past, your present and your upcoming future 2.0 version, right? So remember this, at the end of the journey there is a beautiful diamond mine waiting for you. So now here it comes down to whether you are willing to take the effort to dig deeper, take some effort, sacrifice, work hard, or do you want to give up? The choice is yours, right? So on this note, இன்னைக்கோட டாபிக்ஸை பார்த்துடலாம். So yes, let us first start off with important topics from August 14th ஓட paper. So here இங்கே வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா the Hindu International Edition major topics, government tweaks export promotion plan to soften the blow of US tariffs, page 1. So yes, the ongoing tariffs being issued by US upon Indian goods entering America, இதை பற்றி ஏகப்பட்ட டிஸ்கஷன்ஸ் போயிட்டுருக்கு, ரைட்? ஸோ ரொம்ப டீட்டெயிலாக அதை பற்றி நம்ம ஆல்ரெடி கவர் பண்ணிட்டோம். But in the article பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் major sectors which will be affected, right? What will be the implications? How is India planning on responding to this? இது பற்றின information இருக்கிறதுனால we will touch upon this topic and we'll also cover the major highlights. Okay, so in the context, yes, this topic features as an important topic in your GS paper 2 international relations, specifically bilateral relations between two countries. Okay, next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா Chhattisgarh government cuts off thousands of forest rights titles. Okay, so இது வந்து page 1ல இருக்கு, right? Thousands of forest rights titles have been cut off, are missing. That is what people are saying. So yes, in the contextல உங்க GS paper 3 environmentல, especially under the topic called as biodiversity, right? Environmental legislations, right? இது கீழ வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா Forest Rights Act 2006 features as an important topic. So இதுக்கு கீழ இருக்கிற அந்த individual forest rights பத்தி தான் this article is discussing. So what is FRA 2006? What are its objectives, right? What are its salient features, right? Who are the eligible beneficiaries? இது பத்தி எல்லாம் நம்ம discuss பண்ண போறோம். And this feature is an important topic in your GS paper 3 environment. Okay, next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா Kenyan farmers use bees, sesame to keep pillaging elephants away. Okay, so here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா this topic revolves around a topic called as man-wildlife conflict. And let me tell you, UPSC mains-ல கூட man-wildlife conflict பத்தி ஒரு previous year question வந்திருக்கு. In that context, this becomes quite important. So here we will primarily be dealing about man-animal conflict, especially strategies to tackle man-wildlife conflict with special reference to nature-based solutions. Okay, so NBS, nature-based solutions பத்தி discuss பண்ணுவோம். And in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா two ways it is important. Number one, GS paper 3 environment and ecology, biodiversity கீழ man wildlife conflict. On the other hand, elephants அப்படின்னு பேசும்போது species in use, அதுலேயும் it features as an important area. Next, Africa is challenging China's mining hegemony. Okay, so basically வந்து என்னன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா the dragon, we're talking about China is exerting its influence in Africa, in the African continent. ஏன்னா இங்க வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஏகப்பட்ட critical mineralோட reserves இருக்கு. So China has its own interest over here. So இங்க வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா African countries, many countries in Africa are now feeling that what China has been doing to Africa is unfair and unjust. Technology transfer நடக்கல, right? Many countries feel that the amount of pollution levels have severely increased. ரொம்ப unfair practices வந்து China has been bringing in, which has been damaging the Africa's interests. So in the context பத்தி பேசும்போது critical minerals, right? சில statistics, what are the implications so far, இது எல்லாமே understand பண்ணுவோம். So here வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we can bring this under the scope of GS paper 2 international relations. Okay, so I hope this decoding is clear. Next வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா today's paperல இருக்கிற சில major topics. Flash floods leave over 40 people dead, over 100 missing in Jammu and Kashmir's Kishtwar region. Okay, so இங்க வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா again a flash flood event, right? So இப்போதான் recent-ஆ உத்தரகாஷில, especially in Uttarakhand, there was a flash flood event triggered by a cloud burst. Similar event has happened now in Jammu and Kashmir, right? With many lives lost, many people being rescued, many still under debris. So all this is quite concerning. So in the context வந்து உங்க GS paper 3 disaster management point of view ல this topic becomes important. Next, Operation Sindoor is an example of humanity's battle against terrorism. So in the article, more than Operation Sindoor, we are primarily going to be talking about one of the president's address to the nation on the eve of independence. So inga vande about India's stance on terrorism, right? About Amrit Kal, our idea of becoming Vikshit Bharat by 2047, right? The role of artificial intelligence, right? Zero tolerance for terrorism and corruption. Idu patti ellame inga discuss pannirukanga. So some important words and value addition ungaloda mains answers நீங்க யூஸ் பண்ணலாம். So this overlaps in many areas with regard to value addition. Okay, so இதை நீங்க GS paper 2 social justiceல, economyல, with regard to like you know internal security, many angles you can quote some of these points mentioned over here. Next one, the urgent need to democratize India's heart transplant program. So yes, organ donation, heart transplantation, India பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் what are the numbers, what are the issues with regard to it, right? Why is it not reaching out fairly to many people, right? என்னென்ன pressing challenges இருக்கு, இது எல்லாமே பற்றி பார்க்க போகிறோம். இந்த கான்டெக்ட்ல எஸ் ஜிஎஸ் பேப்பர் 3 science and tech. And இது தவிர we are also going to be looking at an editorial topic, right? So that will also be covered. Few more things that I wanted to tell you. So guys, multiple sections of the paper are talking about special intensive revision, right? நிறைய வாட்டி டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணிட்டோம். I will not be covering it again. There are multiple videos which talk about it. Please go and watch special intensive revision. Veranda IAS YouTube channel, like if you look at the current affairs playlist, you will find the elaborate discussion about it. Number 1. Next, the background of India-US tariffs, adu pathiyum irukku. Please go take a look. Next, ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict. What is the cabinet's new plan with regard to demilitarizing Gaza? இது பற்றியும் நம்ம டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். This was also extensively in the news. Please go through it. So repeated topics will not be emphasized more. I request you all to go back and take a look at it. New topics where there is a need for detailed explanation and where it can help, that will be covered by me, so do not worry. Okay, so guys, idoda vandu pathina we have decoded the syllabus so far. We have decoded the important topics for today, right? So next vandu pathina, let us straight away get into the discussion. So here, government tweaks export promotion plan to soften the blow of US tariffs. Okay, so here talking about the background, நம்ம எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியும், right? So after Trump has come to power in the US, right? So he has come with this notion of what is called as Make America Great Again. And avarum pathina, avar vandu or American nationalist. He always believes in what is called as an America First policy. So US and India or a trade, bilateral trade la nama paakumbodhu, US is at a disadvantage and India is at a surplus. So this was not liked by US, number 1. Second, US is not liking India's closeness with Russia. So basically என்னாச்சுன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, ரஷ்யா உக்ரைன் கான்ஃப்ளிக்ட் நடக்கும்போது many countries in the west started imposing severe sanctions. So அப்போ என்னாச்சுன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, Russia started selling crude oil at highly discounted prices. So in the context for a country like India, where we are very dependent on crude oil imports, right? Buying crude oil at discounted prices would keep the inflation in check. So in the context, India feels that yes, when every country is looking out for its own self-interest, nammaloda own interest paathakanum. So here India has been procuring crude oil from Russia. Not just that, India pathina military equipment நம்ம ரஷ்யா கிட்ட இருந்து எடுத்துட்டு இருக்கோம். For example, the S-400 Triumph missile defense system, right? The S-400 defense system. இதையும் நம்ம ரஷ்யா கிட்ட இருந்து எடுத்துட்டு இருக்கோம். So all this is not liked by US, the closeness of India towards Russia. So in the context pathina, the trade imbalance, and second, the closeness of Russia and India towards Russia procuring crude oil, especially when the Russian-Ukrainian war is going on, is not liked, because what US feels and what even Ukraine feels is that this money which is going to buy oil, idu could be indirectly used by Russia to fund the war which is taking place. So this has been told, but in this context we have to remember there is always Western double standards. For example, US is accusing India, you are getting crude oil from Russia, but on the other hand, US itself is procuring uranium from Russia. European Union is getting crude oil from Russia. So in this case, these are nothing but Western double standards. So in the context, India always believes that the world has become a very fragmented geopolitical order. எல்லா கண்ட்ரியும் தன்னோடைய செல்ஃப் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்டை பார்க்கும்போது India also has to look out for itself, right? So this has been India's stance. So in the context, background பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, number 1, Trump initially threatened of imposing 25% tariffs, okay, and this has been pushed to 50%. So 50% tariffs on Indian goods entering the US. So tariff na enna, tax on imports, right? So this pathina, it will affect the export of many goods outside that of India to that of the US. So in the இடத்துல pathina, The Commerce Ministry has also responded saying that they are trying to understand how to deal with this issue. Why? Because nariya sectors idla adi vangum, agriculture, MSMEs, right? So here India is also thinking of how to respond to this very effectively. So in the context புரிஞ்சுக்க ட்ரை பண்ணோம், right? What are the trigger factors புரிஞ்சுக்க ட்ரை பண்ணோம், right? Talking of values, India US trade வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா as of 2024 it was around 186 US billion dollars, where almost 41 billion US dollars was a surplus on the side of India. So இதுதான் வந்து value. So here US feels that it is at a disadvantage. Okay, so here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா how are we retaliating to this, or what measures we are taking in பாத்தீங்கன்னா, number one, India feels we need to procure and protect the interests of our agriculture and dairy sector. Next, GDP growth வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா it was forecasted to 6.6%, but looking at the ongoing tensions it may come down to maybe say 6.4%. And next, what we also feel is நம்ம ஒரு countryல dependent-ஆ இருந்தா தானே பிரச்சனை. But what if we diversify our trade to different countries such that we are not going to witness such shocks whenever it happens? That has also been suggested. And yes, in the tariffs வந்து இந்தியாவுக்கு மட்டும் இல்லை, but across many countries in the world. So this is going to affect many other countries as well. So here majorly வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா what has been cited is with regard to India, some major sectors which will be affected. என்னெல்லாம் sectors ன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா textiles, shrimp, organic chemicals and machinery. In the sectors வந்து will be majorly affected by US tariffs hike. So in the context the government என்ன plan பண்றாங்கன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, we are planning on revising the export promotion mission that we have to ensure that some amount of benefits can be given to certain sectors, and so that they are not affected by this ongoing tariff issue and the tariff hike. So என்னெல்லாம் plan பண்றோம்? For example, they are saying நிறைய extra incentives கொடுங்க, make faster export clearances, cheaper loans can be given, credit guarantees can be given especially for MSMEs, right? And intersectoral or interdepartmental coordination இருக்கணும் between different ministries, talking about how this crisis can be effectively tackled, right? So இதே மாதிரி வந்து they have also decided a huge corpus, right? Almost around rupees 2,250 crore fund should be available for to ensure that export export clearances, on the other hand export credit is given. இது எல்லாத்துக்குமே this has been cited. So the idea is whenever tariffs are being imposed on one particular country, right, it affects certain sectors majorly. So how do we cope up with this? How do we enhance our resilience to deal with this is the point of discussion. So in the context la export promotion mission வந்து revisit பண்ணி we are trying to revamp it. We are trying to ensure that many sectors are going to get benefited. So this was the scope of discussion, right? இதை தாண்டி ஏதாவது updates இருந்தா we will anyways be looking into it and covering it up. Okay, so now in this context, right, let's move forward to the next topic. So in the topic வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, Chhattisgarh government cuts thousands of forest right titles. Okay, so Chhattisgarh government cuts thousands of forest right titles. So here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா under the scope of GS paper 3, right, environment, especially under the scope of legislations, right, we will be talking in detail about Forest Rights Act 2006, right? இதோட objective என்ன, right? இதோட salient features என்ன, who are the beneficiaries, right, and what are some existing problems, ஏது நடக்குது, இது எல்லாமே நம்ம டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ண போறோம். So first let us understand why this was in news. So see பாருங்க, in the Forest Rights Act 2006 வந்து provides for different types of rights. For example, user rights இருக்கு, title rights இருக்கு, right? So இங்க வந்து என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காங்கன்னா, thousands of title rights have disappeared from the official records, which is quite concerning. Okay, so here specifically என்ன சொல்றாங்க, சத்தீஸ்கர்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னா at least 3 districtsல over the last 17 months, right, according to some RTI data, what they are saying is several thousands of names have disappeared from here, to the extent where the numbers have massively dropped down. So for example, in the article they have spoken about the Bastar district in Chhattisgarh, where they have said is the numbers fell from 37,958 in January 2024 to 35,180 by May 2025. So look at the number of names which have got removed. So in the இடத்துல what the officials are saying is that this primarily was because of some reporting errors, right, miscommunication, but here there is lot of ambiguity, right. So in the context about the Forest Rights Act, its background, இது எல்லாமே பத்தி we need to understand. Okay, so let us understand a few things. So yes, the scheduled tribes and other forest dwellers, recognition of the Forests Rights Act 2006. So this particular act was being brought about. Primary aim வந்து என்னன்னா to protect people's interests, right, especially forest dwellers, and to secure their interests in managing the forest. So background வந்து புரிஞ்சுக்க ட்ரை பண்ணலாம். So as we all know, India பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் from years and years together, right, people வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா have had a very close relationship with forests, with the flora and fauna, with the nature around us. So this has been the relationship of people with the land. So இங்க வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா if we take the whole of India, right, especially when the Britishers started coming in, they realized that our forests have such great rich resources, and in the resources which they can use it as raw materials, like you know, for running many industries in Europe. So in the context வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நம்ம ஃபாரஸ்ட்ல இருக்கிற timber, right, was used for shipbuilding. Many such things they started exploiting the resources in our forests. But here there were some challenges. Number one, என்னன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா they required a large amount of money. Number two, they also wanted to ensure that people do not encroach into the forest. So இங்க வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா if you take different parts of India, there was a practice called as shifting cultivation. So northeast India la பார்த்தீங்கன்னா it was also called as jhum cultivation. Okay, jhum, JHUM, jhum cultivation. So idea வந்து என்ன, இந்த shifting cultivation என்ன ஆகும்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா a group of people will be living in one particular land. Okay, இங்க இருக்கிற land வந்து they will set it on fire. What they'll do is they will like you know set it on fire, and once it is done, right, இங்க வந்து they will sow some crops. இந்த இடத்துல they will stay for a certain period of time. Next என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, after a certain period they will jump from this land to one more land. They will settle down there, burn the land down, cultivate crops over there, then they'll move to another land. இதே மாதிரி ஒரு லேண்டா மூவ் அவுட் பண்ணி finally they will come back to the first land where they started their process from. ஐடியா வந்து என்ன, ஒரு லேண்டை ஓவர் எக்ஸ்ப்ளாய்ட் பண்ணி ஓவர் யூஸ் பண்ணிக்கிட்டே இருந்தால் the soil will lose its fertility. So here when you're giving a time period and you're coming back, right, it will allow the soil to regain its fertility. So this was the intent. But now யோசிச்சு பாருங்க, after the Britishers came in, they also brought land revenue settlements. நீங்க இதை பற்றி படிப்பீங்க. For example, you had the zamindari system, right? You had the mahalwari system, the rayotwari system, right, where people were expected to pay rent. But now imagine if there is a practice like shifting cultivation, how do you restrict the people, right? How do you determine that this is the piece of the land? So inga first they kept a check on shifting cultivation. Inge நிறைய forest dwellers were affected. Next வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா they brought about what was called as the Indian Forest Act 1927. இங்க வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா forests were divided into reserve forests, protected forests and village forests. So the reserve forests, the rules are very strict. People were not allowed to enter. Nothing could be collected. But here the intent of the British was very clear. இங்க இருக்கிற forest resources could also be used, like you know, the timber etc. could be used for their own interest. So என்ன ஆச்சு, overall ஒரு point of timeல forest dwellers forestல இருந்தாலுமே number one they were evicted, right, infrastructure projectsல they were evicted, shifting cultivation அவங்கள பண்ண விடலை. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரியான பீப்புள் ஃபாரஸ்ட்டை நம்பி தான் வாழ்கிறாங்க, அவங்களோட லைவ்லிஹுட்டே ஃபாரஸ்ட்டை சுற்றி தான் இருக்குது. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி மக்களை அவங்களோட இடத்துலேருந்து நம்ம டிஸ்பிளேஸ் பண்ணால் இட் இஸ் நாட் ஃபேர். ஸோ இதை அட்ரஸ் பண்ணுறதுக்காக தான் த ஃபாரஸ்ட் ரைட்ஸ் ஆக்ட் 2006 வாஸ் brought in. The idea is years of historical injustice done to forest dwellers had to be addressed. So number one, major என்ன, ஸோ ஏதாவது ஒரு இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் ப்ராஜெக்ட் இல்லை ஏதாவது ஒரு ரீசன்னால eviction is happening, displacement is happening, ensure rehabilitation is taking place. Number one. Next அவங்க என்ன சொன்னாங்க, இந்த people தான் வந்து have great awareness about the forest resources. So here use the people's knowledge, use their involvement in conserving the forests. இதுதான் வந்து major objectives of this particular act. Okay, I hope this is clear. So next வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா what are the major rights that this particular act provides? Number one, title rights. So என்ன சொல்கிறாங்கன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ownership வந்து ஒரு ஃபாரஸ்ட் dweller-ஓ இல்லை ஒரு ட்ரைபல் பர்சனோ who's living in the forest, maximum 4 hectares of ownership is allowed, right, provided that this land was used for agricultural purpose. Okay, so this is one particular thing. Next என்ன சொல்றாங்க, this is title rights. Next வந்து user rights. So the people living over here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா they can use the land for say grazing their animals, minor forest produce collect பண்றதுக்கு. Next one என்ன சொல்றாங்க, they talking about relief and development rights. So any infrastructure project நடக்குது, people are getting displaced, provide rehabilitation for them, protect them. Next one வந்து they talking about the management of the forest with the involvement of people. Okay, so here வந்து this is more of a people centric act, the Forest Rights Act, right? And it looks into the requirements of the forest dwellers, and also it is like a safeguard for them in case they are being evicted or in case they are getting displaced. Okay, so the எல்லாமே salient features of this particular act. நீங்க உங்களோட static part of this போய் படிச்சிங்கனாலே you will have a clear cut idea. So next one வந்து how do we recognize two categories of people? Number one, if we talk about other traditional forest dwellers, இவங்களை நம்ம எப்படி recognize பண்ண போறோம், and if there is a forest dwelling scheduled tribe, right? So here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா for people who want to claim the benefits of this act, they should come under any of these two categories. So number one, other traditional forest dwellers பாத்தீங்கன்னா generations together they should have been residing in this place for 75 years. இந்த ஃபாரஸ்ட்டை நம்பி தான் அவங்க லைவ்லிஹுட் இருக்கணும். நெக்ஸ்ட் ஒன் கட் ஆஃப் டேட் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 13th December 2005. பட் இதுவே வந்து ஒரு ஃபாரஸ்ட் டெல்லிங் ஸ்கெடியூல் ட்ரைப், ஃபஸ்ட்டு அவங்க ஸ்கெடியூல் ட்ரைபாக இருக்கணும், நம்பர் ஒன். நெக்ஸ்ட் ஒன் அகேன் த கட் ஆஃப் டேட் இஸ் த சேம் 13 December 2005. அண்ட் இவங்களும் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சுற்றி இருக்கிற ஃபாரஸ்ட் ரிசோர்ஸஸை நம்பி தான் தேர் லைவ்லிஹுட் ஷுட் பி டிபெண்ட். ஓகே, ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் ஃபியூ திங்ஸ். ஸோ இந்த கான்டெக்ட்ஸில் ஃபாரஸ்ட் ரைட்ஸ் ஆக்ட், தி இஷ்யூஸ், தி salient features, the objectives, the beneficiaries, right, who identifies them, right, and இது எல்லாமே பற்றி போய் படிங்க. All this could be significantly important. So in this context, ஒரு previous year question solve பண்ணுவோம். Look at this. Under the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006, who shall be the authority to initiate the process for determining the nature and extent of individual or community forest rights or both? 2013 prelims கேட்டிருக்காங்க. Option A State Forest Department, Option B District Collector / Deputy Commissioner, Tahsildar, Block Development Officer, okay, you have the Mandal Review Officer and you have Gram Sabha. So these are the options. So here what do you think is the answer, guys? What is the answer? So yes, the answer for this is option D, Gram Sabha. Okay, so இதெல்லாம் பற்றி போய் படிங்க, right? Previous year questions on this topic have come. Legislations are very very important, especially உங்கள் GS paper 3 environment பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் they play an important role. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So next வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா let's get into one more topic. Fine. So again இந்த topic species angle இருந்தும் பார்க்கலாம், environment angle இருந்தும் பார்க்கலாம். Kenyan farmers use bees, sesame to keep pillaging elephants away. So here வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா more than the article there are few things that we have to discuss because இங்கே bees, sesame பற்றி பேசும்போது there are few things we need to understand. So number one பார்த்தீங்கன்னா in today's world that we are living in, man-wildlife conflict is on the rise. Man-wildlife conflictனா என்ன? An interaction between man and animal where the net effect of this interaction is negative. ஸோ நிறைய வாட்டி நீங்கள் லைக் யூனோ நியூஸ் பேப்பரில் கூட நீங்கள் இமேஜஸ் பார்ப்பீங்க, லைக் யூனோ பீப்புள் கெட்டிங் சேஸ்ட் பை எலிஃபென்ட்ஸ், ரைட், ஆஃப் அ லெப்பர்ட் என்ட்ரிங் இன் டு அ வில்லேஜ். ஏன் இதெல்லாம் நடக்குது? Primary reason, habitat loss and fragmentation. As humans, we have become selfish. நம்மளோட wants அதிகமாக இருக்கிறதுனால we are encroaching into the forest. When we start encroaching into the forest, we are depriving the animal of its habitat. And since we are depriving the animal of its habitat, the animal is forced to enter into the place that we are living. So in simple terms, man-wildlife conflict வந்து it is on the rise. Right? நிறைய reasons இருக்கு. For example, if we analyze this topic, right? If we talk about causes, why is man-wildlife conflict taking place? Simple terms சொல்லணும்னா, number one, major reason, habitat loss. Okay, habitat loss, deforestation in the name of infrastructure is fine, but இருக்கிற habitat is also getting fragmented. See, simple யோசிச்சு பாருங்க. For example, let me give you a representation. So if say this is the habitat of the animal, habitat na enna, the roaming space that the animal has, okay. So இதுதான் வந்து animal ஓட habitat, okay. So இப்போ இந்த இடத்துல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா this entire habitat வந்து say there are multiple trees over here, okay. In the name of deforestation all these trees are getting cut. Next one, இதுதான் வந்து habitatனா நடுவுல வந்து there is a huge railway line which has come. So the entire habitat is got fragmented where the animal is stuck between two corners. இப்போ இந்த அனிமலுக்கு ஃபுட் தேவை, ஏதாவது தேவைனா it is forced to go outside. இங்க outside வந்தா என்ன இருக்கும், right? You will find village settlements. You will find village settlements. So this is aggravating the scope of man-wildlife conflict in recent times, okay. So in the context la man-wildlife conflict is a pressing issue of today. So specifically வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா if we talk about strategies to address man-wildlife conflict, especially man-elephant conflict பாத்தீங்கன்னா there are multiple strategies. Now here technological interventions கொண்டு வரலாம், இல்ல nature-based solutions கொண்டு வரலாம். So there is a concept, okay. இதுக்கு பேர் வந்து NBS. NBS னா என்ன? Nature based solutions, okay. Nature based solutions. So nature based solutions na enna? Solutions offered by nature to deal with pressing issues such as pollution and climate change and biodiversity loss. Let me give you an example, okay. So man wildlife conflict நடக்குது, okay. Say for example ஒரு இடத்துல ஒரு agricultural field இருக்கு. So now here either the person can have a high voltage fence, right, or can have a biofence. For example, sturdy materials like bamboo etc. வச்சு கூட we can build what is called as a biofence. Biofence ஓட advantage என்ன? Number one, it is greener. It is a means of afforestation. Number two, animal death நடக்காது. It is much more safer than using a high voltage power line. So this is called as a biofence. Next, I'll give you one more thing. நிறைய பேர் என்ன சொல்றாங்க, you can grow certain plants which the animal may not like. For example, if we talk about lemongrass, right, and in the context of Africa they're talking about sesame. So for example, சில plants இருக்கலாம் which an animal may not like, the smell may not be liked by the animal. இது எல்லாம் எவ்வளோ low cost solutions, right? So if at all there is an agricultural field க்கும் forest க்கு நடுவுல ஒரு gap இருக்குன்னா, please cultivate certain plants which the animal may not like. The scent or the smell is not liked by the animal. ஸ்மெல்லுக்காகவே animal வராது. So crops are protected, lives are protected, right? So all this can be done. So in the context la in the article la sesame பத்தி பேசியிருக்காங்க, stating that sesame is not liked by the elephant. So in the case Africa la elephant menace tackle பண்றதுக்கு they have also been cultivating sesame. This is also one possible solution, right? So இதே மாதிரி options பேசும்போது let me even talk to you about an interesting strategy brought about by the northeastern frontier valleys. So northeast la பாத்தீங்கன்னா நிறைய railway tracks இருக்கு. Okay, you have dense tropical evergreen forests, right, and there are a lot of elephants, and there are also many railway tracks which run across. So enna agudhu, many times, right, across the crossing paths the elephants get damaged, right, their lives are gone, and here it is causing damage to both life and property. Abdi irukumbodhu the northeastern frontier railway came up with a very innovative idea, and the idea was called as plan B. Okay, plan B. Idea வந்து ரொம்ப simple. The bus sound of bees வந்து elephants க்கு பிடிக்காது. So if at all these are the railway tracks, என்ன பண்ண போறோம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா we are just going to install speakers, and these speakers will produce nothing but the bus sound of bees. So wherever there is a scope, speakers install பண்ணி bus sound of the bees is going to be played. So these are such simple solutions to address the implications of man-wildlife conflict. All these can be done, right? So idu patti, so we have in detail tried understanding man-wildlife conflict, right, man-elephant conflict, and some possible solutions to tackle it, okay? So go and read about this. In the context let us solve a question on a species. So yes, elephants patti pesumbodhu, with reference to Indian elephants, consider the following statements. Number one, the leader of an elephant group is a female. The maximum gestation period can be 22 months. An elephant can normally go on calving till the age of 40 years only. Among the states in India, the highest elephant population is in Kerala. So guys, what do you think is the answer? Take some minutes, look at this question, take a guess. So yes, answer என்னவா இருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க? Okay, so let me tell you a few things. In the context வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, yes, elephants have a matriarchal setup. The leader of an elephant is usually a female. Do you know any other animals where the leader of the group is usually a female? Theranja, please reply on the chat box. Okay, so this first statement is correct. Elephants வந்து have one of the longest pregnancy periods, 22 months to 24 months கிட்டக்க, almost up to 2 years it can keep its young one in its stomach. இதுவும் correct. An elephant can normally go on calving not until 40 but even until 60. Okay, among the states, Kerala elite is actually Karnataka. So in this case, these two are wrong. The correct answer is A, 1 and 2 only. So in the madri species based questions exam la varla, so keep having a watch. Okay, so next moving forward, let us talk about this. Africa is challenging China's mining hegemony. So this is a very nice topic because number one, it talks about China வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா critical minerals and producing goods out of it. China is trying to progress itself, right? It is trying to climb up in the ladder. But here, the source of raw material for all of this is looted out of Africa. So in the article overall the author has basically said that here African countries are now becoming more aware, more conscious, and they are able to acknowledge the injustice done by China upon them. So in the இடத்துல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, they have said China has been playing a major role in Africa's mining sector. Okay, so here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா China is dominating here. China வந்து has promised that it will deliver many things. For example, technology transfer இருக்கலாம், skill development இருக்கலாம், right? Improved benefits for local communities இருக்கலாம். But இது எதுவுமே நடக்கல. So it's all like, written just on white paper but never fulfilled. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு situation has been created. So here next வந்து சில important statistics கொடுக்குறாங்க. Africa is home to some of the world's largest reserves of critical minerals. The Democratic Republic of Congo alone produces 80% of the world's cobalt. Okay, and let me tell you guys, this question came in prelims. The world's largest cobalt reserves are found in which country in சொல்லி prelims ஒரு question கேட்டிருந்தாங்க. The exact statement is given over here. So here Democratic Republic of Congo and cobalt. Remember that, okay? So CC. So in the context வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, they have spoken about what are some of the major pressing issues, right? With regard to this particular thing. And next one வந்து what are the African countries expecting, right? For example, they are now prioritizing their own sovereignty. They also want to look out for their own interest. இது பத்தி எல்லாமே பேசியிருக்காங்க. Next, what they have said is going forward how they want things to be. இது பத்தியும் இதில் elaborateா டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. So in the context, yes, for several years together, China has dominated Africa's mining sector. Critical minerals பத்தி பேசும்போது number one we spoke about cobalt, number two lithium. ஏன் இது important? Because number one, the world is shifting towards a hydrogen economy. The world is talking about reducing dependence on fossil fuels. EV-ஆ இருக்கட்டும், right? Batteries இருக்கட்டும், all these minerals can play a vital role. Problem இங்க என்னன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, China has been making many false promises, and in the promises China has not been delivering. For example, in the case வந்து certain African countries like Democratic Republic of Congo இருக்கட்டும், or let it be Zimbabwe, இவங்கெல்லாம் என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, going forward they don't want to even take forward the contracts, they want to cancel it for the simple reason being that local people க்கு கொடுக்க வேண்டிய support and many such favorable policies have not been brought in. So all this has been quite concerning. Next வந்து என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, overall வந்து if you talk about the amount of water pollution that this has caused, right, the amount of environmental damage that these mining projects have caused has been very severe. Local communities are affected, right? In this case, many marginal sections of the society are also terribly affected. So here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, the benefits which should translate downwards and trickle down did not take place. So here வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, what they feel is they can maybe go forward, but இங்க வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, many things have to change. Sovereignty respect பண்ணணும், right? Stricter environmental regulations இருக்கணும். Technology transfer has to take place. people need to be prioritized, capacity building needs to be promoted. இது எல்லாம் பண்ணா maybe it can go forward properly. But in this case it comes down to how far China is willing to engage and entertain all of this, right? So overall this was the discussion. But in the context of one thing you need to understand is IR la neenga edavadhu or answer எழுதுறீங்க about like China's growth in certain sectors, you can even quote that of China using Africa as a raw material source for critical minerals. Prelims point of view la paakumbodhu Democratic Republic of Congo and cobalt, that becomes significant. Okay, so guys, with this let's move forward for important topics of today. So number 1 pathina, flash flood leaves 40 people dead, over 100 missing in Jammu and Kashmir's Kishtwar. So in the இடத்துல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா number 1, very recently we know that we were discussing this elaborately for the significant reason being Uttarakhand this has taken place. Cloudburst triggering flash flood. So yes, Himalayan regions பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் now there is a lot of natural calamities taking place, right, and it is increasing. So in the context வந்து Jammu and Kashmir la kuda this incident took place, right? 40 people have died, right, and many people, 100 people are missing, many people's bodies are buried and efforts are taken to be like to recover them. இது எல்லாமே நடந்துட்டு இருக்கு, right? So here in this context எதனால இது நடக்குதுன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா there was a cloudburst event. The cloudburst event triggered the flash flood. So this was the major reason. So in the context from a disaster management point of view as well as from a geography point of view, number 1, cloudburst na enna, flash flood na enna, idu neenga therinjikano. So yes, to keep it very simple, ஒரு small space, small area la வந்து if there's going to be intense rainfall or intense precipitation for a very long period of time, it can trigger what is called, it is a cloudburst event, and this can eventually trigger flash floods. How will this occur? For example, if there is a particular reservoir, அதுக்கு ஒரு limited water holding capacity இருக்கு. If that water holding capacity is going to be breached, the existing water is going to flow out. If glaciers start melting, flash floods can take place, right? Infrastructural damage, too much of infrastructural activities, right? At the same time வந்து steep mountain slopes many events like landslides and avalanches have become common. So all these are trigger causes. Please go read about it. In the context yes, from a disaster management angle, disaster preparedness, right, mitigation, recovery, all of this matters. Capacity building should be done now that especially Himalayan regions la vandu, because such calamities and such events are on the rise, right? Preparedness, early warning systems, alert responsiveness, right? People should be trained with regard to how to tackle this. The role of NGOs, civil societies, இது எல்லாமே also matters, right? And on the other hand, like mapping of some zones, right, இது எல்லாமே தேவை to ensure that people are more equipped and such great damage to life and property is also restricted, right? So please read about all of this. So in the context please look at this question, right? It's a mains question. Flooding in urban areas is an emerging climate induced disaster. Discuss the causes of this. Mention the features of 2 such major floods in the last 2 decades in India. Describe the policies and the frameworks in India that aim at tackling such floods. So 250 words na, it is a 15 mark question. 2024 la கேட்டிருக்காங்க very recently. So yes, usually if calamities are in news, the probability of it coming in the exam is very high. So nama vandu we have to equip ourselves to that extent, right? So whenever you come across such topics, make a detailed note. Oru mains point of view lay prepare your notes, right? Causes, consequences, measures, right? Initiatives if any, examples. இது எல்லாமே இருக்கணும், including definition, right? So that if at all in the topic vandalume you have a ready made answer which you can write. Okay, so next moving forward here vandu pathingana on the eve of independence, right, that was this year's independence, our president has spoken about Operation Sindoor being humanity's battle against terrorism. In the context the president has also cited many more things, some important pointers which we can use as value addition, adu mattum we'll discuss. So yes, on her address to the nation on the eve of the 79th Independence Day, Operation Sindoor பத்தி பேசும்போது yes, it was humanity's fight against terrorism இது சொல்லியிருக்காங்க Draupadi Murmu, our president. And also she's mentioned about the technical capability, right, of our defense, right? And on the other hand, she's also said there should be no tolerance towards terrorism. So India வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we've always had a stance on terrorism, zero tolerance towards terrorism. That has been reinforced over here, right? So in the context she's also said that India will never be the aggressor, but if at all we are attacked, we will never hesitate. So that is also something which has been said. And further going forward with regard to, right, you know, our constitution, how we are a vibrant democracy, இது பத்தி பேசியிருக்காங்க. Next one வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா talking about the economy, right, and the growth. Yes, we are on our way towards becoming the $1 trillion economy that we are dreaming about. This year talking about Amrit Kal, right? So 2047 la we are looking at Vikshit Bharat, right? 2047 la. So all this has been discussed. Apart from that, yes, a quote of Mahatma Gandhi has also been quoted saying, corruption and hypocrisy ought not to be inevitable products of democracy, right? So in the context, the president has reiterated the fact of the importance of number 1 good governance and number 2 zero corruption. Good governance and zero corruption irundale the benefits of development will trickle down and reach to the people. Idhe context la artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence can be used for public good has also been cited. So here are some points, right? Some important points could be used in your mains answers for value addition. Adanala this topic has been discussed. That's it. Okay. So next, moving forward, talking about organ transplantation, organ donors, there is one particular topic. The urgent need to democratize India's heart transplantation program. GS paper 3 Science and Tech, it features as an important topic. So here talking about this, number 1, heart transplantation எதுக்கு தேவை? So usually people who are in the end stage of heart failure, அவங்களோட லைஃப்ஸை காப்பாற்றுறதுக்கு ஹார்ட் டிரான்ஸ்பிளான்டேஷன் இஸ் யூஸ்ஃபுல். ஸோ இந்தியா பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ஆல்தோ வி ஹாவ் லைக் different bodies to look into it, right? There have been multiple challenges and lacunae in ensuring that heart transplantation or even organ donation has been effective. For example, if there is an accident which is taking place, right, although we have green corridors, there is police assistance, right, the reach of this to people has not been very effective, right? So infrastructural bottlenecks irukku. Next வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா organ harvestingல there are problems, organ transplantationல there are problems. All these have been pressing issues which has been cited. So usually வந்து என்னன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா organ, the procedures required for it, the funding required for it, all these has been certain pressing issues which has been cited. So yes, going back and looking at this article, basically வந்து என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா here one வந்து infrastructural gaps are there, right? Administrative lacunae is there, public awareness is also highly restricted. Okay, and here although we have different bodies, right, maintaining the list, coordinating transplants, matching even the organ to the recipients, all these are some pressing problems which are highly there. Logistical issues irukku, ellame has been cited over here. Green corridors, what are green corridors? Read about it. Okay, and here inga vandu pathingana when an organ is harvested, especially in the context of the heart, right, it has to be transplanted within 4 hours. So that timely indifference also, like results in many people not receiving the benefits of it. இது எல்லாமே cite பண்ணிருக்காங்க. Next one வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா there's also a very interesting citation. In 2023, over 1.7 lakh people lost their lives due to road accidents. Okay, and many of these people who lost their lives were actually organ donors. So என்னன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா only 221 heart transplants were conducted where the estimated need itself was 50,000. So this shows the huge gap that is prevailing. Okay, so overall about green corridors, about India's heart transplantation program, what are the problems which are there on the organ donor side, on the recipient sides, the middle gaps which is infrastructure, maintaining the list, matching the donor with the recipient, இது எல்லாமே பத்தி பேசியிருக்காங்க. Just go through it. Okay, so yes, with this we have completed the major topics of discussion for today. Now we will be entering into the editorial analysis for today. So yes, இனிக்குள்ள இருக்கிற இம்பார்ட்டண்டான editorial topic, one topic that we will be discussing in detail is about invasive species and specifically about water hyacinth. Okay, so here only united action can stop the hyacinth invasion. Okay, so GS paper 3 environment பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் this could feature as a important topic. So in the context, let us understand the background, right? So before that, before we look into this, we all know that every editorial is usually analyzed in an approach called as code, okay, where C stands for context, okay, O stands for opinion, D stands for data, and E stands for editorial takeaways. So here the editorial takeaways can further be divided into ICES approach, I meaning issues, C meaning causes, E meaning effects, and S meaning solutions, suggestions, way forward, etc. So here most of the editorials you read, நம்ம இந்த approachல தான் progress பண்ணுவோம், the code approach, where there is a context, there is an opinion, there is a data, there are datas, and then you also have the final editorial takeaways. So in the context, editorial takeaways is what you'll primarily be making notes of, the issues, causes, effects, solutions. So editorial பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் it can change, it can either be advantages, disadvantages, right, issues, causes, effects, measures. So it will vary from topic to topic. So in the context, let us also understand few things, okay. So before we get into this topic, number one, there are certain kind of species called as invasive species. Invasive species, அதோட background, characteristics, இதை பற்றி ரொம்ப டீட்டெயில்டாக a video has been made by me. You can just type invasive species in the Veranda IAS YouTube channel, right? Here you will get a particular video which in detail talks about invasive species, the characteristics and major examples. So in the article பொறுத்த வரைக்கும், number one, they're talking about invasive species with specific focus on water hyacinth. Water hyacinth is also called as Eichhornia crassipus. So basically என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, number one, what are invasive species? Invasive species are non-native, meaning அந்த இடத்தை தாண்டி வெளியில் இருக்கிற species, right, which can either be intentionally introduced or which can disperse and come into a particular place. They enter into the place, damage the native ecosystem, and they keep multiplying in number. So invasive species ஓட characteristics என்ன? Number one, reproduction rate ரொம்பவே அதிகமாக இருக்கும். They can keep multiplying. Number two, dispersal ability. Dispersal na enna, to spread. They can spread very easily across multiple regions. They also talk about something called as phenotypic plasticity. Read about this term, okay. Phenotypic plasticity. Phenotypic plasticity na enna? Ability to thrive multiple conditions, okay. So these are few characteristics of invasive species. India பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் or many countries around the world have been infested with multiple invasive species. So let me tell you, ஒரு இடத்துல ஒரு particular species domestic species இருக்கலாம், but அதே species இன்னொரு இடத்துல invasive இருக்கலாம், okay. So try to understand this. Not like there is a specific category of species called invasive. It could be a native species in some other place but invasive in a completely different place, okay. So in the context with specific focus, the author has discussed about water hyacinth, right, the problems caused by water hyacinth especially in the region of Kerala, right, how is it affecting the Kuttanada, like below sea level farming, right, rice cultivation in the இடத்துல, how is it creating certain amount of damage, what are some communities around the world doing to cope up with the crisis of water hyacinth, என்னென்ன products develop பண்றாங்க, what are some existing challenges, and what is the way forward. Overall, this is the summary of the editorial. We will discuss all this one by one. In the context where if we try to incorporate code approach, right. So here context வந்து என்ன? The context is focusing on water hyacinth. Water hyacinth, an aquatic weed, an aquatic unwanted plant is spreading across different places அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. Next one வந்து talking about opinion. Yes, the author has said the hidden danger of water hyacinth extends beyond livelihoods and biodiversity, right. So this is an opinion, right. Next, if we talk about data, they say that today வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்தியா எடுத்துக்கிட்டா 2 lakh hectares of inland waters have been smothered by this particular plant. So this is the data. Takeaways வந்து என்ன? what is the issues in Kerala, what are some solutions which can be taken to tackle water hyacinth, what are some countries doing, and what should be the ideal way forward, right? So in the edathla CODE, all the four are there. So let us understand this one by one. So yes, talking about water hyacinth, there is a very interesting backstory to it. Backstory வந்து என்னன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, if you take India, right, one of the instances as to how water hyacinth was majorly introduced was primarily by the British. So Bengal presidency, then Bengal presidency included Bengal, Bihar and Odisha, right? So Bengal presidency la irukumbodhu the Britishers felt the waters in Bengal look a little bit plain, so why not introduce certain beautiful ornamental plants. In the context da water hyacinth reduce pannanga because it has these beautiful purple colored flowers. Water hyacinth enna panna ஆரம்பிச்சதுன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, the minute it was introduced, right, it started spreading across the entire water body, right? So major water full-ஆவே ஒரு mat மாதிரி கவர் பண்ணிருச்சு. So it is an invasive plant, native plant ஓட compete பண்ணும், right? So imagine water level மேல full-ஆவே water hyacinth வளர்ந்துச்சுன்னா, right, sunlight penetration will not take place, existing native plants will die. இந்த வாட்டர் ஹயாசின்த் என்ன பண்ணும், தன்னுடைய மெட்டபாலிக் ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸ்க்காக வாட்டரில் இருக்கிற டிசால்வ்ட் ஆக்சிஜனை யூஸ் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிடும். பட் இதே வாட்டரில் நிறையா ஃபிஷ்ஷும் இருக்கா, fish is also dependent on dissolved oxygen. So when water hyacinth takes up too much dissolved oxygen, fish mortality will take place. So nariya native plants started dying, water hyacinth kept multiplying, many fish died. So all the water started decaying so much that many diseases started spreading. The livelihood of several fishermen was affected. Ivlo damage nadandadanaala water hyacinth has a nickname, and the nickname is Terror of Bengal. Okay, Terror of Bengal because of the damage that it has caused. So in the context, let us talk about this aquatic plant called as water hyacinth. So yes, India porutha varaikum, right, 2 lakh hectares of water bodies have been covered. Majorly affected regions include Kerala, the Vembanad Lake, right? Then we can talk about northeastern states, Odisha, West Bengal. All these are places affected by water hyacinth. Next one, water hyacinth nala enala nadakum. So if you all recollect the Terror of Bengal story that I just told you, immense biodiversity loss, loss of native plants, aquatic life decline agum, right? Quality of water will get affected, tourism sector can get affected, right? Food chains, food webs will be affected. All these angles are there. Economic angle layum pesna, fisheries, livelihood of fishermen, export of many products, marine related goods, right? Navigation, all this can be a problem, and lot of money has to be invested to clear this invasive weed. So all this is a pressing issue with regard to water hyacinth. Next, talking about certain steps which have been taken by different states abdin pathina. In the article specifically they are talking about how water hyacinth has affected Kerala la irukra Kuttanad region. So this Kuttanad region is called as the rice bowl of Kerala. Inga vandu pathina, many people are getting, the farmers over here are finding it very challenging to cultivate rice because inga there is greater infestation of water hyacinth. So clearing this up, growing rice in a competitive place is becoming very very difficult. Idiyum cite pannirukanga. Next one vandu pathina, what are some solutions which have been taken. So in the context la vandu what many communities are doing abdin pathina, for example in Odisha, in Odisha la vandu many self help groups water hyacinth or raw material vechu many handicraft products are being made, mats are being made, goods are being produced, right? That has been done. Assam and West Bengal la vandu pathina water hyacinth vechu they are making paper, biogas, etc. So yes, ஒரு இடத்துல ஒரு invasive species இருக்குனா we need to come up with optimistic solutions as to how we need to tackle this issue. So yes, there is a problem. The solution to the problem will be using this for some particular commercial use so that the community can also get benefited. So in the context, yes, all this has been going on. But here even talking about some major problems which have also been there, right? What are some challenges in Patha? Number one, lack of research and development. என்னதான் ஒரு invasive species நிறைய இடத்துல இருந்தாலும், என்னதான் அந்த invasive species வச்சு நிறைய products பண்ண முடிஞ்சாலுமே, lack of research and development is there. Funding is less, right? And here vandu pathingana the interest of people groups, the interest of self help groups to use it as a raw material is also becoming less because people are scared to experiment, right? Scaling up potential solutions, all this is there. Next one வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா its implications on many sectors like fisheries, native plants is also high. So here there is a urgent need of consensus amongst the local fishermen, local communities to take part and ensure that active weeding out of water hyacinth is taking place. Policy formulation la issues irukku. All this is affecting the progress of using invasive species as raw material to create suitable products which can be commercialized. Okay, so yes, talking about the need of the hour, government support, right? Many NGOs, many civil societies, private sector, especially corporates, CSR, இந்த மாதிரியான initiatives that they can engage themselves in lake cleanups, right? Restoration of habitats, right? They can pool in their existing knowledges, more research can be conducted such that it could trickle down and benefit multiple communities. So in the context there, please go read about invasive species, solve UPSC previous year questions pertaining to invasive species. Thank you. I hope the discussion was useful.